Oh, well, quorum. We're missing Rick, but Rick will be fine. So roll call, please. Tonight is December 3rd, 2020. It is 7:01 p.m. This is a special meeting for the Montara Water and Sanitary District. And it was, so let's do roll call.
Okay. Director Boyd,
Here.
Director Decker,
Here.
Director Harvey,
Here.
Director Slater Carter,
Present.
and then is Director Lohman coming later?
I believe so.
Yes.
Director Lohman's not present at this time.
Good. Well, let's, President's statement. This is somewhat of an experimental meeting. It occurred to me that with this COVID thing, we've lost all of our community, not all of our community, but what have been routinely places of communication for the community to get together and discuss things, and that would be the post offices. Oh, hello, Rick.
Rick.
And the school, and the places we normally sort of get together and hang out on corners and chat and so on. And it seemed to me that perhaps for a little while before our regular meetings, and this is experimental, we could have a special meeting of the Montara Water and Sanitary District, just as a place where community members could raise issues of concern, not only to the Water and Sanitary District, but to the Montara and Moss Beach community in specific. So that's sort of what this is about. So we have two opportunities. We have one new business, specific point to discuss, and that is we've been talking about having a another strategic plan session for the community to catch up on what's important, and also to tell people more about what we're doing in a less formal setting. But right now we've got our oral comments, so people can just, I would say, just chat. I don't think the purpose is not necessarily to have the district take action on this. There are no action items on this, but it's more as a place where the board members and the community can chat and listen and talk to each other. So let's move into oral comments. And for I think everybody is relatively familiar with Zoom, but just in case, the way to get the attention is to go like this. So I know you need to speak. I will put on the participant list, but sometimes that has been problematic. So I see that we've got 15 people here. So let's just,
Sorry,
Christine.
thank you. Sorry to interrupt. I think I'd like to make sort of a brief statement, kind of in response to your introduction, just to kind of corral the function, or at least relate to everyone that the function of the Montara Water and Sanitary District is related to wastewater treatment and water delivery. You know, even though this is a formal meeting. It is a special meeting. I just would like to caution the board, even though there's no action being taken, that issues sort of outside the parameters of the function of the district aren't necessarily permissible for the board to discuss, take action, talk about policy. So I did just want to make a statement about those parameters. I think it's important that everything relates to the function of the districts. And I think it's great that we have the strategic plan as part of the agenda. And maybe that could serve as sort of the guiding document that hopefully people can talk about issues related to our purpose and function as a water and wastewater district.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Greg, I see your hand is up. Greg?
I'm still trying to process what Christine is telling us.
Sorry about
Um,
that. I was trying to be diplomatic
So-
a little bit.
I just don't understand what it means with respect to the comments I'm about to make, so somebody can stop me. Catherine, I assume you're looking for me to express some general concerns, some of which are already in the last draft of the strategic plan, or what? Just to state what I think are some of the priorities? Is that what you're looking for?
Well, we're under oral comments now, and part of the reason this came up as a potential more regular item for the board was Jim called me one day and he said, "Hey, they've cut off the top of Montara Mountain." And I kind of went, "Who's they and why did they do that?" And he said, "Can we have it on the agenda?" And I'm going, "Well, what does that have to do with our water and sanitary district functions?" But
Well,
I
maybe-
said, "Wait a minute." And I said, "Sure, why not?" Because it's of great importance to many, many people in this community. And in my humble opinion, we are the only elected representatives for Montara and Moss Beach who will pay attention to what we say. It's gotten so that at the Midcoast Community Council, there are, it has lost its chutzpah and its willingness to fight for the community. Yes, it's a good thing you're there, Greg. And so it just seems to me that we are an important part of this community. We only represent the citizens of Montara and Moss Beach. And Christine was talking about sewer and she said water delivery, but we also produce water. And that's a very important part of our function is the production of water. We're not just a transport agency. And and so what we're talking about is clean water and the public health of our community and the public health of our beaches and our whole community. We not only we worry about sewer spills for many reasons, one of which is we want a nice, clean, sanitary community. We worry about our watersheds, for instance, because we take water out of them. We also have a trash function because we are the franchisors for Recology. And frankly, I noticed a pile of trash in our district along the edge of Highway 1 that at first I assumed Caltrans had left it there. But then I was thinking, well, maybe somebody just backed a truck up and dropped some construction stuff off. Who's responsible for that? It's our district, it's our cleanliness. Do we call Caltrans about it? Are they responsible for it? Are we responsible for it? I don't know. I've been here, I've negotiated trash contracts, but I've never had to deal with trash on the edge of Highway 1 in our district before. So these are the kinds of issues that I think ultimately there's a lot of them that involve the public health and safety of our district. Rick, I saw your hand.
Yeah, I was just saying, I was kind of the culprit, I guess I'll confess. We've
You
had
left that
such,
trash there?
sure, take me down. We had these two humongously successful meetings, one about rate increases. Then at our last big meeting, the whole thing about the decapitation of Montara Mountain got huge response, great community input. And I understand it's like talking to Clemens. Technically, the top of the mountain, at least 2 feet in our direction, is in our watershed. So that's 100% MWSD kind of issues. I kind of took a tangent, and maybe that's not going to be appropriate. Like as Catherine said, we don't have real public forums. And with the COVID virus and everything shutting everybody down, my thought at the time was, hey, why don't we tack an extra half an hour on the front of our meetings and let people get together and talk about stuff that's important to the coast side. So I started that, and I certainly understand that legally we probably need to restrict it to things that are specifically in our charter, water, sewer, and that kind of thing. So I still think it's a good idea, and I think if we can craft some public input on things like, everything from garbage collection to cleanliness to rivers to creeks, all those kind of relate to our watershed and our services and keeping our beaches clean. But I'd love to get the community together and just talk about stuff. So if we can craft some thoughts that are relevant to MWSD so we don't get in legal trouble, I still like the process if we can make that work. So.
Well, and we can also help give direction to people who are upset about other things, and we can say, well, maybe you want to talk to X, Y, or Z about it. Scott, it's your turn.
Okay, thanks. Behind me, this picture right here, this is the headwaters of Montara Creek, as determined by our geologist and general manager, Clemens Heldmeyer. When we hiked to the top of Montara Mountain, and we'll talk more about this at the 7:30 meeting, we got up to this point and realized the drops of water that land on this portion of Montara Mountain will go down towards and become what becomes Montara Creek. The issue that was raised about taking the top off the mountain got us to looking at maps, and even though we weren't quite sure about the nexus, Christine, we're quite clear about the nexus now of how a matter all the way at the peak impacts directly, falls squarely within our purview as an agency. But I'll go further. I want to clarify. We can set the agenda for topics that are relevant to the agency. The public has a right to speak, and we're not here to limit what the public speaks on. It's nice when the public speaks on things that the agency can do something about, but over the years, we've certainly allowed people to come air out their concerns and not only speak to leaders in the community, but also to other members of the community who are watching on PCT and now on Zoom. This is good for our community to have some kind of voice, and we have decided that using our authority, we will provide some voice for people who just need a chance to have a voice in a community where our city council is the board of supervisors. They are not real good at being our city council. And as the local electeds, people who've sworn constitutional oaths, we recognize that our duty extends in spirit beyond what the authorizing legislation, but we can take an expansive view on what that legislation allows us to do. And so when we look at the state sanitary code and the state water code, both of which give us powers, it's going to be tough to have an issue here that we don't have some ability to at least hear the community on. And I like what Catherine's done in positioning this as a meeting to talk about our it's basically designed to seek input from the community to help shape and inform and guide what we as a group do to try to conduct the affairs of the district. So I appreciate what you're saying, because we as board members have certain things where we're going to be able to respond more narrowly than if we were simply members of the public. And that's fine and proper to point out. And I appreciate that. For the members of the public who aren't used to hearing the words from council, speak your minds. And we're so grateful for people who show up and speak their minds and hike with us to the top of Montara Mountain and have earnest discussions with other leaders in other agencies. And even though it's on the agenda later, I'm just, Sean and Mark, I'm just so grateful to have been there with you on Tuesday. That was really cool. There's a lot of reasons I love this community, but involved, smart, hardworking, passionate people. Well,
who do their homework and aren't shy.
I learned you start crying here, Scott, so be careful.
Oh no, I learned things from you guys, and that's just so much fun.
I see you, Greg.
All right, I'll I'll give somebody else a turn.
Okay, Greg already spoke. Let's see, Sean.
What? I just asked a question. I didn't get to speak.
Sean's going to go ahead of you, and then you
No,
can go.
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to echo what you were saying, Catherine. I think this is a great forum to air some of these issues on the coast. You know, just from my personal experience, you know, having dealt with the Montara issue a year ago, it was really difficult to get any traction with any of the local agencies. Went to MCC, you know, they talked for a while, but nothing happened, right? And, you know, I went everywhere, San Mateo County Planning, and nobody seemed to have any control or local authority. And the Board of Supervisors really didn't seem to care at all.
I see you, Clements.
So I totally agree that, you know, this would be a great way to manage some local issues, you know, to the extent that your authority can, you know, be appropriate for it. So thank you.
Well, and I want to say it, if our authority can do something, it's only because of the people who are in our district. We have, as Scott said, it's people either come here and stay or come here and leave shortly. It's a unique community, and I think every single one of us as board members and probably as community folks, I know Michelle, I don't know Eric, hi Fran, have dealt with the county and other agencies and just gone away feeling like we could have been talking into the wind for all the reaction that we got. And yet they were serious issues. We all, each one of us could talk about what was the issue that got you started in this community. And I would say it was schools, and then it was public health. And we are a community who can and does get things done, but we've lost our ability to stand in front of the post offices and talk to people. That's how we used to get a lot of news out. We've got Nextdoor, but I find Nextdoor hard to follow conversations on, and they get sidetracked. And I just think the only way we are going to maintain Montara and Moss Beach is if we act as a community. And right now, this is a good forum for us. Greg and then Clemens.
Well, I would point out the community has spoken for about 90 seconds out of the 20 minutes we've used so far. As far as the MCC, which I'm going to be on shortly, what I've heard from previous members is that it became quite contentious and counterproductive, strident, adversarial. And so they kind of backed off in terms of being forceful advocates because they were so over the top. That seems to have been remedied in the last few years. Certainly, I will be attending these meetings going forward and bring stuff to the MCC. But look at what you're doing here. You are diluting the impact of your concern because you're not attending the MCC meeting. So am I supposed to go back to the MCC and say, well, I heard Sean and Mark and Fran and Eric and others say X, but I'm not them. So I think this is A, good idea, but B, could have a secondary consequence you're not fully aware of. Unless MWSD is prepared to fully move forward and totally resolve something by exerting leverage on its own. And at some point, I think it really is helpful to come before the MCC. And I don't mind causing trouble because I have for you all. So
That's your job.
It needs some thought about how this also gets brought to the MCC. For instance, if you can't get it on an MCC agenda, and that's controlled now by Michelle Weil going forward, then I could say, all right, do this, do that. But I need some thought. Now I have a half dozen other things I could comment on, and I'll stop because there are other community members, and most of you have heard me on most of those topics anyway.
Okay.
But
Clemens,
when
you
there
have a
is a
comment?
strategic planning meeting, then I'd like to know about it so I could submit those comments in writing before that venue. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I want to give Christine a little support in her comment here. First, let me be specific why the Montara Mountaintop item is part of the Montara Water and Sanitary District agenda. It is a project that is implemented by our neighboring water agency. And I say neighboring because our district directly abuts to the SFPUC watershed. It is a water system related project that the SFPUC is implementing that is directly benefiting the Montara Water and Sanitary District. We manage the watershed on this side of the mountain. The system up there, the information is ultimately going to lead to a better weather forecast, which helps us in managing this water agency. And Scott already mentioned that this is happening directly in the headwaters of Montara Creek. So affecting us in this regard as well. So there's a clear reason why this project is on our agenda. When it comes to creating a new format, I think it is very good that the board has now a chance to discuss this. What I'm also going to point out is your resources are extremely limited. Your admin staff is here 100%. It's Tracy and me, and that's it. Okay, so we're not only hiking up the mountain, but we also run a water and sewer agency that we recently explained very much in detail is comparable in complications with the San Francisco water system. So we are stretched thin. I encourage you to listen to council's advice and make sure that what is ending up being action items here is water and sewer related. Thanks.
Absolutely. But it doesn't mean that the community can't speak on other issues of concern. Um, we don't necessarily need to act on everything we hear about, but um, it is important. I don't see any other hands. Eric Clausen, I see your hand. You have something to say.
You're muted.
We can't hear you.
Okay, there we go. Is that
There you
better?
go.
Okay. No, I do have a question. I think it pertains probably only to myself. But my parcel has been billed for the last 13 tax years for the Montara sanitary district fee. I'm not talking about the zone, I mean the bond, but the separate sanitary district fee.
This
In
is
spite of
a sewer related issue, as I recall, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I'm not connected to your sewer. I'm not connected to your water, but I've been billed this fee for 13 years. Neither one of my neighbors has been billed this fee ever. I'm in the rural part of the county. I'd like to know why I'm being billed this fee, why it's gone on for 13 years. How did I get singled out for this? And how did how did it get authorized in the first place to bill this parcel when the fee doesn't seem to apply? And why there's apparently been no effort to verify your database in all these years. How did these things all happen?
Well, Eric, maybe I'm probably the best one to address this. And as I told you already by email, this is an
Weeks
administrative.
ago, and I haven't heard a word since.
I was specific in my email that we will issue a full refund. It's actually being authorized at the upcoming regular scheduled meeting in 2 minutes.
Okay.
So, and let you know that as well, that you can expect that refund. So there is no difference for us really between if someone's inside or outside the urban rural boundary. I understand that we currently can't issue connections, new connections, at least on the sewer side, outside the urban boundary. On the water side, we actually can under certain circumstances. So
Well, I'm not interested in the connection.
you don't have a connection, that is
No,
correct.
I'm not looking for one.
So, but I'm just saying, this is not necessarily a criteria for us.
Okay.
Now, how you got into our database, I can't answer that question. Nobody is here who essentially put you on this system. But again, we actually are finding this out now, I guess, because you pointed this out to us. You understood this now. And so we're appreciative that you point this out to us. It's a simple administrative error. You're gonna get all the money back. And yeah, so that's what I can
Well,
say.
I mean, that's very nice. I'm glad to hear that. That's great. It just, it might seem simple on the surface, but when you actually start asking the questions about how all this came about, it doesn't seem like a pretty story, I mean, it seems kind of odd how this could have happened,
Again,
But,
I'm not
you know,
sure.
Eric, if I can,
especially if you consider the legal background concerning how this, I guess, this parcel sort of came about, and the legal back and forth that happened, back in 2007, 2008. A lot of questions were, asked in a more legal forum than those days. And in spite of the 1.5 years plus of legal back and forth about this parcel, and attorneys paid for by MWSD, still somehow this parcel got this tax attached. And I don't see how that could have happened if anybody was paying attention to anything that was going on. I mean, it's an oversight for sure, but I mean, a really gross oversight.
Well,
So
I'm
that's why I
glad you
don't know
found
what
it, but previous
yeah, I'm glad
owners,
I found it. I mean, you guys didn't find it. If I hadn't found it, I could literally been paying this for another 50 years.
um,
I mean, should you
that
guys
may
have some
may
sense
not
of
be
oversight here?
the case if you're going to be there that long or whatever, but there is, we check our tax bill every year when it floats in, and there's a lot of stuff on it. It was, as Clemens said, it was probably a staff error. We've had staff turnover. I got on this board because I live in the rural area, and the county was allowing septic systems to be put so close to wells that there was a likelihood for pollution
Well,
of by the well and the
feet.
septic system. And so I looked very closely for a long time at the
Right.
urban rural zone and this and that and properties, and there's some properties that are and some and it would be very confusing to somebody who was a clerk. And I don't even know if maybe when we got the information, I'm just saying that the county hadn't put the wrong zoning on it, and our clerk just didn't double check the maps, because why would you? The county is perfect, of course.
Yeah, how do you generate
So,
that different annual fee every year when there's no meter that you can read anything off of?
Well owners
How
are
do you
charged the
determine that
average.
for-
So we have a method of applying the average water usage for folks that are registered on a well. And that seems to be the case for you, seems to be in your case.
It's a shared well, so, yeah.
Yeah, so that's how this was calculated.
anyway,
Okay.
it is 7:32, so we need
Very
to
good.
adjourn this meeting, and Eric, please come to all meetings. As you can see, it's easy. Adjourn this meeting, and we will reconvene our regular meeting, December 3rd, 2020. And so we need to start now with a roll call. We are adjourned.
Catherine?
Yes.
Catherine's friend Pollard. Can I say something?
Fran, would you wait until public comment for our regular meeting? Because Fran, would you wait until public comment for? I'm hearing feedback. Is anybody else hearing that?
Yeah.
Massive echoing.
I'm hearing feedback.
That killed it.
Thank you.
Much
Thank
better.
you. Okay, so let's call this regular meeting of Montara Water and Sanitary District Board, December 3rd, 2020 at 7:34 p.m. to order with roll call, please.
Director Boyd,
Here.
Director Decker,
Here.
Director Harvey,
Here.
Director Loman,
Here.
Director Slater Carter.
Present. President's statement. Thank you to everybody who sat in on our community meeting. We can try to do this again. I think it could be a success, or it could just die a natural death. We'll see. Oral comments other than those on the agenda. Fran Pollard. Fran, you're on mute. Okay. I don't see any hands up on
can unmute.
my,
I can unmute her.
oh, okay.
There.
Hi,
Fran?
can you hear me?
Now we
Yes.
can.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, this is Fran.
Hello, Fran. Yes. What's your comment? Can you hear us? Fran, I
Can
can't,
anybody hear me?
we can hear you. Can you
Yes.
hear us?
She probably doesn't have audio coming out her way.
Right. I don't understand.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
No, I'm not, but I don't have a sound button.
Okay. I don't see any hands up on
No.
my.
I can unmute her.
Well, that's a long delay, Lou.
Oh, yeah. There.
Hi, can you hear me?
Now we can.
Okay. So I wanted to
Can
come.
you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, this is Fran.
Hello, Fran. Yes. What's your comment?
I wanted to comment on Montara Mountain.
Okay, that's an
hear
agenda item later on.
No,
Fran,
Can anybody hear me?
we
I-
can hear you. Can
Yes.
you hear us?
She probably doesn't have audio coming out her way.
yeah, that's what's the
Right.
problem.
I don't understand. Fran?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
No, I'm not, but I don't have a sound button.
Okay. I don't see any hands up on
No.
my.
I can unmute her.
Well, that's a long delay, Lou.
Forget it. Forget it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Fran. All right. Do we have any other oral comments? I'm looking for hands either on the 20 participants or hands waving
Uh,
on screens.
Carlisle is raising her hand.
Oh, she is now. Okay. Hi, Sid. Yes.
Hi, I just wanted to ask if we're ever gonna get park powers like El Granada.
I think that's a discussion for a different agenda.
It's on the
And-
agenda? I'm sorry, I didn't look at the agenda.
No, for a different agenda, because we closed the special meeting.
Oh, I
Uh,
thought this was public comment. Never
This is-
mind.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is public comment. And you are correct. And why would we need park powers?
I just wondered if we were ever going to research it again. I was on the Parks, San Mateo County Parks monthly meeting today, and as usual, it just made me envious because they had all kinds of money in there making big plans, but we never have anything here.
Well,
Welcome
that's
to
a
the
money,
mid-coast.
that's a money issue. And I think having parks powers doesn't give us money.
Well, I'm gonna try to talk with Nicholas and see if we can possibly get to use the back thing, the bypass. Anyway, we'll see. That's it. That's all I wanted to know.
Okay. Mark,
I'd love to talk with Carlisle about that sometime, if you want to get in touch.
Who is that?
it's,
Sorry,
it's
who was that?
Mark.
Mark who?
Hi, I'm the guy waving,
I know, but what's your last name?
Verlander.
Oh, it's not on
Verlander.
here. I see it here, just purple Mark. All right. Well,
If you get in touch with Clemens, he can get you in touch with me.
he
Yes, I
knows
can
me.
get you guys in
I'm
touch.
his pain in the ass. Oops. Bye.
Bye. Okay. Seeing no more public comment, let's move on to public hearing, review, and possible action concerning establishment of Prop 218 limits for solid waste disposal fee increase on January 1, 2021.
Thanks, Catherine. Yeah, we have a franchise agreement with Recology of the Coast. And that requires us to assess the solid waste disposal rates. We do this every year by January 1. And that's done through an agreed upon formula. Recology provides the information. We have our accountant, Peter, run the numbers and look at that every year to double check. And so this year, in accordance with the index-based increase, the formula results in a 1.97% rate increase over the 2020 rates. So that is looking at things, like cost ultimately for Recology to run the operations. So the notices for the Prop 218 were mailed in October this year. We've so far received, I understand, one written protest, but we're gonna do a final count right now. This is the purpose for this meeting is to do a final count, formally count the number of written protests. If the written protests are submitted, if the number is higher than 50% of the 1736%, the fee increase would not become effective. And I guess we would have to go back to the drawing board and send a better message. So right now, we would like to open the public hearing. We would like to open the public hearing, allow relevant testimony, close the public hearing, and count all allowable Prop 218 protests received. I'm going to point out that we are going to ask Tracy to walk outside briefly to check if someone is outside actually at the offices. So anyone could show up in person if they wanted to do so. We would connect them by phone. And also to double check in the boxes if there is more protests received. And so we would then determine whether or not the proposed rate limits should be approved in accordance with Prop 218 and adopt this by ordinance. I also want to point out that we will actually have to implement a follow-up step at the December 17 meeting. We will have a second public hearing, which then is allowing us to plug the rates into the master fees schedule. So that's scheduled for December 17. All of this is going to become effective January 1. Thanks. So maybe Tracy, if you can go out and just double check and see if there's anything in the boxes or anybody there that needs help to talk to the board.
Okay, and while we're waiting for that, Peter, would you like to discuss your review of the finances? And Rick, I see you had your hand up too. So Rick.
Rick first. Just quick questions while we're waiting for Tracy. Part of the plan for possibly even next year was to change the style of the bins to also do kitchen waste, I believe was their expression. And we were going to move to one of the big cans every week rather than a big can and a little can every other week. Do we have the schedule when that's going to convert over to the slightly more picking up with the big cans every week?
Yeah, that has to be implemented by January 1, 2022. So
Okay,
we have
next year.
a year to implement that.
Okay.
And negotiate it with Recology. Yeah, and I think we have actually Chris participating. I'm not quite sure. But ultimately, we will have to pick this topic up very soon and start negotiating, talking about implementing composting services with what I also understand being essentially a weekly pickup of the green waste bin.
Okay, I see Sid's hand is up and I see 3592637. Is that Chris Porter?
Probably it's a Pacifica number.
I'm gonna unmute that telephone number if I can.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, that's me.
Hi, Chris.
Hey, Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Hi, everyone.
So what's going on with the new cans and kitchen waste and everything else?
During this coming year, we will have to negotiate with the district. First of all, we're going to there's still legislation going. COVID has put everything behind somewhat. So we have got to work to get an ordinance in place. And once the ordinance is in place through the district, then we will work to have composting done. But once we begin composting, then green waste will have to be picked up on a weekly basis instead of a bi-weekly basis, which we most probably will go to strictly the 96-gallon cart at that time. And there will be an adjustment in the rates, having that go to a weekly pickup. So we will have to sit down and have a discussion of exactly how we're going to handle everything once we get the ordinance in place. So I have been watching Sacramento very closely and keeping Clemens apprised of what's going on, and will continue to do so that we don't miss any deadlines.
What do you think the increase in cost is going to be?
Right now I can't say. There's so many different factors that come into play. Definitely there's going to be labor. So it's going to be twice the amount of labor. Right now, we split the green waste and a smaller garbage route. So there's technically 2.5 garbage routes, Montara, Moss Beach, El Granada, on a 5-day work week, as well as 5 days a week pickup of green waste, since we're doing half the area. Well, the green waste will have to go to 100% route. So there's going to be additional full-time truck. There's going to be an additional 0.5 labor for the green waste, fuel, quite a few different things. So, right now, off the top of my head, I cannot give you that number, but, I definitely, once we get things moving, we'll be able to really hone down on what that number will be.
Okay, and we won't have any choice in this matter because it's being passed out of Sacramento.
Absolutely. And we were able to, for quite some time, able to not have this because I was able to identify, when we did the survey a few years ago, how many people did backyard composting. So I could verify that. But now this is a state mandated that every city have compost service.
Okay. I see, Jim, you've got your hand up, and I see Sid.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Chris, I didn't catch the comment. So every week, so we're going to keep our green waste can and we'll get a different can for food waste, or do we put it all together?
Everything will go together.
Oh, and the same cans we have now.
Correct. But we will, at that point, when we go to weekly,
yeah,
it'll be limited just to the large can.
To the large cans.
To the one large can.
Just we can't have an extra green waste can, just the one large can for green
on a weekly basis
and food on a weekly basis. Got it. Thank you.
Okay, Sid.
Okay, I was still muted. First of all, I think it was maybe a year and a half ago, when somebody who had recently moved here wanted to start having food scraps in the green waste, which would have meant the one every week pickup. I called Chris, and she said that they drive their green waste all the way down to Gilroy to process it in windrows. So, I mean, it's just not really that green to send it that far for a few more scraps of food. So I hope that maybe the state will decide it was not a good idea. It's not that sustainable when you think of how much fuel cost it is. So anyway, I hardly ever fill up any of my cans. Once in a while, I'll do a big yard waste thing, but it's not a weekly thing ever. But anyway, I just want to say that I've seen on Nextdoor how people are complaining about Recology, and I'm so happy we have. I'm not Recology, sorry, Republic. I'm very happy we have Recology. So that's it. Oh, I did have one question. When I looked at the rate thing they sent us, it's not related to me, but I saw that commercial rates had different things. Like if you, let's see that big 52 room hotel down in Half Moon Bay, they're going to put homeless people up in. What size container would a 52 room hotel need? I'm just curious because we don't have any up here that big, do we?
No.
Yeah. Okay. Just curious. If if we had to, someday they might. I think I heard there was one going in Montara. It might not be 52 rooms, but anyway. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Sure.
Rick, or were you just waving?
I was just
Tim.
waving goodbye to Chris.
Ah, gotcha. Okay. Peter, you reviewed those numbers. So
No, correct.
you've done this for quite a few years now.
Yeah, I was just looking at the history of it. It's been since 2013 when the agreement was first well, the amended agreement was first enacted. But yes, we reviewed our AUP from our review of our ecology's various spreadsheets coming which verify what the cost is. We go over them. We review the various indices which they provide us. And then just make sure that there is no errors with their math. Cells are pulling correctly. We do not audit those numbers. So like I said, this was an index-based year. It'll be another index-based year for next year. And I believe after that, the agreement needs to be reviewed once more and possibly another cost base. It's the cost base years where we see the big jumps. The last time was in 2018, I believe. So this one worked out to 1.97% after reviewing the various increases in there are a number of indices which are provided. Said labor, fuel, a number one that Chris just mentioned. So going through, all the math was correct. There were no abnormalities after some review. So it looked good.
Good. And Clemens, it looks like Tracy's back. Was there a lot of counting to do, Tracy?
Can you let us know what the final count is, Tracy?
Yes, so the district received one written protest and there are no majority protests. I looked outside and I checked all the boxes. There's no one outside and there's nothing in any of the drop boxes.
Thank you.
Is the public hearing still open? If not, we should have a motion to close it. And then I wouldn't mind if Tracy could read the tabulation again after the public hearing is closed, and then the board can just discuss the item and move to adopt or not adopt.
Okay, do we have a motion to, let's see, Mark, you have a question.
Just a quick comment. I wasn't aware that there was any opportunity for any kind of comment on this. And I wasn't sure if it was maybe in our mail or something. That was my only comment. I'm wondering if a lot of people were aware that they had an opportunity to make comment in the first place. That's it.
Thank you. Okay, do we have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Okay, Director Boyd?
Just one quick comment. If after the vote, Clemens, if we could address how the notification was done, because we don't want people to be surprised by this. And we do follow our procedure. I vote aye.
Director Decker?
Aye.
Director Harvey?
Aye.
Director Lemon?
Yes.
Director Slater Carter?
Yes. Motion carries. unanimously. Clemens, how was the notice sent out?
Yeah, thanks, Mark, for the question. So we sent, this is a very prescribed process. We have to follow very strict guidelines how to notify each property owner that's affected by this. So it is indeed sent by mail. So there is what's called a Prop 218 notice. And if you look in our packet for tonight, it's actually included. It's behind the ordinance. So it has to have very specific things on it, like today's date, when is the hearing, what is the location, the actual rate increase, the reasons for it. So it has to be very specific, and it's not a small mailing item. So it's how many pages? It's 1, 2, 3, 4 pages.
It's like a booklet.
Yeah, so it's a
Hold it
little
down.
booklet that it's every property owner in Montara and Moss Beach received it. On top of that, of course, we posted on our website. And in addition to that, we have, I think this time we had 2 prior board agenda items where we talked about this as well that were agendized. So that's kind of the notification process. In addition, we usually have also the notification for the master fee schedule. That's a legal notice that's published in the Half Moon Bay Review included. And there was actually one published in yesterday's edition as well that essentially stated that we would raise the rates at tonight's meeting. Unfortunately, we have to have 2 published. There was the holidays that messed it up again with the Half Moon Bay Review, and that's why we pushed that hearing now 2 weeks out. But that's essentially the notification process. And I understand it's always, you know, it's not a very exciting topic, and so it gets overlooked rather easy.
Clemens, may I also say that the notice that is sent out specifically states that people can protest in writing or verbally at the meeting?
Yes. And it has to exactly describe how you protest. Absolutely.
Good. For the record, Tracy, would you repeat the count and the check for whether people were there in person?
Okay. So I checked outside. There was no one outside in person, and I checked the inboxes, and there was nothing in the inboxes. Thus, the district received 1 written protest, and there are no majority protests.
Thank you. Thank you. And Chris and Mark and everyone else will keep you updated through Chris on what's going on at the statewide level. My guess is that this is going to, the statewide thing is going to call for in terms of percentage, of probably a fairly significant percentage increase in costs to the service recipients here. But that's Sacramento for you. Okay, so shall we close we've closed the public hearing and we've had the report and we need a vote now. Or do we need a vote, or do we have to wait one more till the next meeting?
No, you may vote now.
Okay, let's have a motion, please.
I'll make the motion to accept the cost increase for the recycling contract.
Thank you, Peter. Second.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Jim. Roll call vote, please.
Okay.
I believe this needs to be in the form of a, Christine, does this need to be in the form of a resolution?
We're adopting an ordinance, not a
Adopting.
resolution.
Okay, so I understand that the motion before us is to adopt the ordinance as described in the packet.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay,
I think
thank you.
it's in the packet. Yes.
Yes, it is. Roll call vote, please.
Okay. Director Boyd?
Aye.
Director Decker?
Aye.
Director Harvey?
Aye.
Director Lahman?
Yes.
Director Slater Carter?
Yes. Okay, moving along to consent agenda. We have approved minutes for regularly scheduled board meetings, November 5th and November 19th, 2020. Approved financial statements for October 2020. Approved warrants for December 1st, 2020. Dam flow report for October 2020. Monthly review of current investment portfolio. Number 6, connection for permit applications received. Number 7, monthly water production report. Number 8, rain report. Number 9, monthly solar energy report. And the last one, 10, is a monthly public agency retirement service report for September 2020. Gentlemen, what's your pleasure? Do we
Move
have
to
any
accept the agenda, the consent
Rick?
agenda.
Second.
Motion by Rick, second by Scott. Roll call vote, please.
Okay. Director Boyd?
Aye.
Director Decker?
Yes.
Director Harvey?
Yes.
Director Lahman?
Yes.
Director Slater Carter?
Yes. Moving right along to old business. This is so exciting. Review and possible action concerning, or possible action related to San Francisco PUC construction atop Montara Mountain. Go for it, Clemens.
Thank you, Catherine. Yeah, we just briefly started talking about this at the 7 o'clock special meeting in a different context. Just going to repeat briefly that, this item was brought to us through Director Harvey. He was actually prompted by Mark Vierlander about some significant changes to the top of Montara Mountain. Ultimately, the top was bulldozed off. And Mark was picking up really on, I think, the after effect of what Sean Handel already probably anticipated. He was active 1 year ago when the mountaintop was fenced off. At the time, SFPUC stated that it was fenced off to protect the San Bruno elfin butterfly. We actually now looked at this here, the repetition from before, because this is, of course, a water system related project by our neighboring agency. And within our district and within the watershed that we manage. So we looked at this a little bit with astonishment. The pictures that Mark brought to us were, I'm going to say, very scary. I knew about the project from about 5 years ago when this first was brought up through the SFPUC sewer side, and the location was discussed, and I actually offered the Alta Vista property that we own. All of a sudden, I was surprised with the work that really was happening up there. We brought this to the SFPUC directly. We had at our last meeting here, Tim Ramirez with the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission, and he gave some indication to SFPUC's position on this. So this is a project where a radar unit is mounted on the mountain that's increasing ultimately the weather forecast, the granularity of the local weather forecast. So I think that's a great project. The location, however, is really terrible. Again, the peak of Montara Mountain was open forever until it was closed off in 2019. We now looked at a little bit from the permitting aspect at this and found some immediate flaws in this. There was a marker, a USGS marker on site. Nobody knows where that is. There was a county marker, both of these markers are monuments, official monuments that can't be touched. That marker was removed, and Mark showed us photos of the base of the marker, and it was clearly visible that somebody now chiseled the marker away. In addition, there was no grading permit from SFPUC. The standard best management practices were not adhered to at the construction site. We also pointed out that this project falls within the coastal zone and actually required a CDP, a coastal development permit. The item was reviewed by the San Mateo County Planning Commission. At the time, the Planning Commission did not understand the location. It was shown incorrectly in the staff report. The mitigated negative declaration that was published by SFPUC was insufficient and the project inconsistent with the actual permit. So the Planning Commission had no chance of understanding really the impact of the project, meaning that the top of the mountain is essentially reduced now. Despite that, due to the fact that access wasn't considered, the Planning Commission voted this project down 5-0. However, San Francisco considered this only an advisory vote and moved forward with the project. That's when, we can thank the local citizens here, Mark and Sean, who brought this to us and alerted us to the fact that there's something going on. We then went directly to the Coastal Commission, asked some questions. We talked to the Native American Heritage Council, and we also alerted the San Mateo County through Dawn Horsley's office to the issues. In addition, we also got in contact with Tim Ramirez's boss. His name is Steve Ritchie. He is the Assistant General Manager of the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission, and convinced him to meet on site. So we had a meeting this Tuesday on top of Montara Mountain. And I'm very thankful that Jim was able to accompany us. Scott was hiking up with us. Mark was going up. Mark also hiked up with Diana Prurucker, as well as Sarah Wright from the Half Moon Bay Review. We had Sean Handel with us, and he also brought Franz Dill, and both Moss Beach citizens. So we met with the assistant general manager up there, as well as Tim Ramirez, the project manager, and had a discussion. Ultimately, I can say that the discussion ended very favorable to us. We requested already in writing before from the SFPUC and verbally at the meeting that the project would be stopped immediately, that the SFPUC reconsider the project and reconsider the location, moving the radar station away from the peak. We asked that the peak be restored, and we asked that the public will get access to the peak after the restoration. And I'm really happy to say that we received from the SFPUC commitment verbally as well as in writing that the project will be stopped immediately. The site will be buttoned up for the winter time. That they're going back to the drawing board. Our considering a location away from the peak. There's a number of factors, a number of caveats that were pointed out, interference with other antennas up there, etc. So they are going to look seriously at a different location, as they're also committed to considering to restore the peak. And they're also going to look very closely on at how they can provide access, the public access to the peak. So I think that was a very successful meeting, and I really want to thank everybody who was there, who participated in this process, everybody who attended last week's, 2 weeks ago, our board meeting, participated there. So I think that was a great success. We are now going to work closely with the SFPUC through this process. And I'm very encouraged. I did get already today a second email from Steve Ritchie, who met with his staff today. And there are issues that they have to work through. He mentioned that buttoning up the site is going to require probably some time. So that there will be some activity going forward, but it is to secure the site for the winter time. And that he also is working through some interference issues with his engineers as well as county engineers. So I think all in all, this is very encouraging and hopefully a very good outcome.
Bravo to everybody.
Well done.
Been great. I couldn't, it just shows what a committed, as opposed to should be committed, community can do. And I'm just so impressed with the dedication and leadership of everyone on this team. And John, thank you for being there a year ago to protest this. I think I read something about it, and I said, the San Bruno elfin butterfly isn't on Montara Mountain. Somebody messed up. Just sort of left it at that. So thank you, everyone. And one of the things I see driving from Carson City, Nevada into Lake Tahoe is a nice sign that says you are entering the Lake Tahoe watershed area. And I think it's people in Montara so appreciate the environment we've got here. I think it's important to remember that we have to protect our watershed. And so thank you everyone for that. I know we raise our kids to pick up their trash even.
I just wanted to follow up with actually a thank you to the SFPUC, because it's not necessarily a given that agency like SFPUC actually listens to what the community is saying. So big thanks to Steve Ritchie from the SFPUC.
Yeah, I like to thank the SFPUC. Steve was very calm and very responsive. I wanted just to make a comment that that Clemens did a brilliant job speaking for the community, and as did Scott and Mark. They were up on top, a windy day on the shaved top of Mount Montara. And halfway through the discussion, the generator came on right next to us that generates electricity for the antenna and towers and communications, and that made it difficult also. But I think that that Scott, Mark, and Clemens did a great job and representing the community, and I want to thank you guys for doing that.
Rick.
Just real quick comment. We're all thanking SFPUC here, which I think is great. Can I request that we formalize that thanks in a letter? to SFPUC and get that on the record.
That makes sense.
Sure, absolutely. And in that context, of course, my staff recommendation that I brought to this meeting needs to be revised, and maybe we've turned this into a thank you letter instead.
Yeah.
Those guys are going to be in our future, possibly more with Half Moon Bay and CCWD down there, who are the end of the line for SFPUC. But I think the more we stay on their good side for the future, when more droughts are going to occur and water is going to be even a bigger issue, we definitely want to be on their side and be consulting to them on our issues here.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that's just,
Scott's waving his hand there, Catherine.
oh, are you waving your hand, Scott?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting because your picture is frozen on my screen. So
Is it?
it was. Now you're moving again.
Okay. Thanks. I want to be sure to call out Sean. Your involvement over quite some period of time was really very a terrific contribution to this. I saw the level of engagement from SFPUC with what you had to say, and your willingness to push back with some hard, uncomfortable facts. I thought that was really important for what happened on the mountaintop. Similarly, Mark, your passion and energy on this, a big contribution. Also, it's tough to stand there talking to important people from public agencies like this, and you both just did a great job of that. It was a pleasure to kind of fill in around the edges on that, but you guys really, you got it to this point. Clemens, you did a really great job of pulling together a meeting, and I couldn't believe when they agreed to take a meeting on the mountaintop. I thought that was extraordinary. And thanks for leading us up the trail that you took us up. That was magnificent. It was probably the best way up the mountain I've ever been. And I wanted to point out, Catherine, when you mentioned the elfin butterfly, I believe they were looking at a different butterfly, and we did find areas that were tagged specifically for butterfly habitat plants, and there's one behind me in this picture. So I think they were quite genuine when they were talking about protecting butterfly habitat. Of course, we had a little bit of issue with the heavy grading that happened literally 3 feet from this, but I'm not gonna. I'm cautiously optimistic. We didn't anticipate that they would listen as well as they did, and I want to thank the two from SFPUC who, you know what, they showed up and they engaged, and they took live fire from some very passionate community members. And having been on the other side of, on the receiving side of that kind of passion before, I have great respect for the fact that they showed up. They didn't have to.
Yeah.
And they,
right.
Yeah. Turns out they both apparently have a pretty deep passion for a lot of the same things we do. This project went a little bit sideways, but they're looking to make it right. And I strongly support sending them something affirming our appreciation.
Why don't we offer them a tour of the Montara Water and Sanitary District so they can see an old Navy base? Jim.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mention Sean. Sean was brilliant in his approach also. I didn't mention him. Clemens and Scott, it only took us an hour and 10 minutes to get to the top from Alta Vista. It would have been nicer if it had taken us longer. But, but we kind of flew up the mountain, and they would have gotten up there in 45 minutes, but they had to wait for me.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Clemens would have. I was dying.
Well, I think this leads all kinds of potential communication with San Francisco PUC too. So I think that it's nice to have worked successfully through this. And I can hardly wait to see how they decide to reconstruct the top of Montara Mountain.
Yeah.
Ed. And then
I
Michelle.
wanted to say thank you as well to both you guys and the whole MSWD crew. I also want to do a shout out for Andy Howes because he was actually the one that I first started the story, and it was the blue elfin. It was actually the Mission Blue butterfly. And
Oh,
it was
Mission
the
Blue.
San Bruno elfin.
Okay.
And they never found the butterflies. They were just protecting potential habitat.
Ah, good. Sid.
Mark's been raising his hand there.
Scott, can you send me the photos that you took so I can put a post together?
Sure.
Thank you.
I'll send you mine too.
Excellent.
Oh, and here's another person who walked to the top, Diana. Hello. Sid, your hand is up.
I unmuted myself, but you guys kept talking, so I waited politely. You recognize me. It is the little brown Mission Blue. I've gone on a trip. California Garden Clubs offered people to go see Malaga Ridge, and its host plant is Sedum spathifolium, which is a succulent. It grows on outcrops. So maybe when they restore that habitat up there, they can put some Sedum spathifolium out there. You can usually get those at like the native plant nurseries and stuff. Anyway, I just wanted to get background on this because I remember once seeing a post, I think it was on Nextdoor, about people seeing lights on the mountain at night and wondering what the heck it was. And then the other thing was this just an accident, or do you think it was intentional? Because I didn't hear that part of the background. It just got discovered, sort of.
You're talking about the actual construction, if this was an accident or?
Yeah, I mean, it sounded like you made it sound like they removed markers, which sounded intentional, but maybe they were just sort of like a Kehoe ditch crew that went in there and didn't know what was what.
No, this was the SFPUC, and this was a project that was approved through San Francisco planning.
But it was a mistake?
No. It was a not a well thought out project.
I think it would be fair to say that it could have been done better. And I do want to say, and I said this on the mountain to SFPUC, we're all really supportive of what the project is supposed to accomplish. We just want it done in the right place, the right way. And so I think if they are true to what they're saying, it's going to be really easy to support the next steps, and we encourage them to propose next steps that could get our support, because we'd love to support the project done the right way. If you look behind me, you'll see some of the equipment that was used, and you can see this gravel roadway that they built to get to the project site.
Jeez.
Yeah, it might be a little more than was necessary, and it's reflective of, some room for debate, but this is the kind of thing, if we have good engagement, I have a feeling that with the right attention, what happens next is going to be more in line with the kind of things that people who really care about what happens, I think you'll see some better things.
So it didn't encroach, it was on their own land, but they just like made a visual impact to our side. Is that what happened?
Well, there's a number of concerns about what happens, some CEQA concerns, some watershed concerns, and other things. But you know what, if they're looking to correct some things and take a better approach, we can look forward and not spend a lot of time looking back.
Yeah, oh, no,
That's
I
right.
just wanted to get an idea. Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
work.
Sid, I don't have your email, but if you go to my website and put in blue elfin butterfly, you'll come up with the original post that I did in July 2019, and it has the EIR and everything in
Sure.
one place.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And
That's the
thank
Coast
you,
Guard Buzz
Michelle, for being on top of that.
You're welcome.
Was that the
Mark.
Coastside Buzz website you're talking about, Michelle?
Yeah.
Okay,
Side
thanks.
size.
Yeah. Oh, by the
Mark,
way,
I saw your fingers.
when does Greg get sworn in? Or did I miss it?
Not here at
I know, but I
MCC.
see him on the screen. Never mind.
Okay.
Mark's
Mark
been,
had his hand up.
yeah.
I just wanted to really, speaking to you, Catherine, you were talking about taking on things that maybe the community couldn't understand. And I don't think any of what we were doing could have been done without the expertise of Montara Water and Sanitary District, Scott and Clemens, helping and steering everything through and getting those meetings and understanding the technicality of it. I mean, it's just amazing what you guys did. I think you really helped to make it happen. It's just fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you from the staff and everyone else. And we will just keep folks posted on in reports on what's going on with this too. Sean, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, just wanted to second that. You know, just from my perspective, having worked on this a year ago, I think the big difference was your involvement, you know, and expertise in this area. You know, I didn't have any knowledge of the permitting rules and all the things that are supposed to follow. And I think, you know, some of those things are what tipped it. So Clemens, Scott, especially, and whoever else worked on that, I'm not familiar. You know, you really did a great job and really put it over the line. So thank you.
I think you're saying, I mean, I only know things because I learned it from a whole bunch of other people and, you know, starting back in tunnel days. And so you're saying, you know, the things that many of us bring to the table are, we're just standing on the shoulders of other people who've laid groundwork for many years before us. So and you know what, Sean, I learned things from you when you were talking, and Mark, same from you. So, you know, we're just sponges, and you know, with a team, that's where the real stuff happens. So
Exactly. And it's as I said earlier, I couldn't find a real good excuse why it should be on the agenda at MWSD, but then again, I couldn't find a real good excuse why it shouldn't either. So, and as a community issue, we may not be able to act on everything because we do have a small staff, but we can at least get things done, and we can each one teach one, so that we can keep protecting and preserving this amazing community. I will tell you that the story that Lou Wall told us years ago was that when Montara Sanitary was just a baby, Green Valley, I think it's Green Valley, up on Devil Slide, the county decided they were going to turn it into the Ox Mountain, what is now the Ox Mountain dump, but it was going to become the county dump site. And some Montara board members said, you can't do that. That's in our district, and we're a sanitary district. And the county had to move it. Can you imagine what that valley would be like if it had been, and our community, if it had been, if the board members and they hadn't taken action on that?
Wouldn't be a valley anymore. It would be a dump.
It would be a dumpy dump, yeah. And we'd have a jillion seagulls everywhere.
A new parking lot.
So it is important. This district has an amazing history of doing things, but it's only from the people who live here. And we need to, I know Diana will help too, keep this, and Tracy and everyone else. It's the oral tradition of how we keep things moving and working on. Anyway, any more comments? Seeing none, let's move on to new business. Review and possible action concerning receipt of fiscal year 2019-2020 audit.
Yeah, thanks. First, I want to thank Ahmad for his patience. Our auditor from ID Biley is here to present the fiscal year audit, June 30, 2020, that we will receive tonight. We also have Peter Medina here, so plenty of folks that can answer any questions. I think we need to point out that it's another clean audit. I'm very happy with the work that's Peter been doing for us through all these years. The staff recommendation is to acknowledge the receipt of the annual audit for the period ending June 30, 2020, and direct the GM to send copies to the relevant agencies, county, state controller, and so on. And we, of course, also will post it on the district website. If anyone needs copies, we can make those available as well. Thank you. I recommend to hand it over to Ahmad.
Catherine, real quick on the last item, were we supposed to vote on an action to send a letter to SFPUC, or did we have any
I don't think
closing
we
issues?
need I think we instructed staff.
And I'm going to sign it. It's all good. I'm just going to say.
Okay. Great, thanks.
Thank you. Ahmed.
Thank you. Thank you, Clemens, Governing Board. Good evening. This is the audit of the district, the annual financial statements of the district. The scope of the audit is to ensure that the financial statements are fairly stated for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2020. Again, the scope of the audit is to ensure that the financial statements are fairly stated. Our responsibility is to issue an opinion on whether the financial statements are fairly stated. Financial statements are the responsibility of management. Our responsibility is to perform audit procedures to obtain reasonable assurance as to whether the financial statements are free of material misstatements. As part of the audit, we also look at the internal controls. We typically split the audit into two phases, the interim phase and the final phase. And then at the conclusion of the audit, we assist the district in working through the financial statements and ensuring that they adhere to generally accepted accounting principles. And then we issue the opinion on the financial statements. I'm pleased to let you know that we issued the clean opinion on these financial statements. These financial statements are also subject to government auditing standards, which requires us to report to you whether we noted any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in the internal control. And I'm pleased to let you know that we had no material weaknesses or deficiencies in the internal control. As part of the audit, we also issue an agreed upon procedure report on the compliance with the GAN limit requirement. And we had no exceptions with respect to that. And with that, I'll be more than happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
I have a comment.
Peter.
I have looked at the audit report, and I found a printing error in the audit report on page number 5. Under net position statement and analysis, the district total net position increased from 22 million to 22.863 million, with a difference of 8.142 million. That is wrong. It goes from 22 to 23 million. That's how you end up with 1.8 million. So it's a typo where the 22 million should read 23 million on page number 5. The other thing I wanted to mention is we meaning that our financial committee, Jim and I, are guided by Peter Medina's monthly statements. And those monthly statements give us an idea where we're going in terms of the budget. What is difficult for us to do is to find out on a monthly basis where we're going, simply because some of the items, like property taxes, come in a later part of the year. So when you divide those by 12 and then look at the monthly performance, it's kind of hard to see where we're going because you don't have all the numbers yet that happen in the year. and our statement only shows it every 1/12 of a year. So what I'd like to suggest, rather than keep the meeting a long time to go through the numbers, is that Jim and I meet with Peter Medina and then get an idea as to how his funds balance sheet that shows the June 30th that was issued in August compares to the audit. Because I've done some comparison and I can't quite find the same numbers back in the audit that I find in his funds balance sheet. And Jim and I would just like to discuss with Peter and with Clemens, of course, where those differences are and how they come about. And that could take place in another meeting.
We can make that happen, Peter.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Good. Any more comments from the board? Questions from the public? I see Greg Diegas has his hand up.
I have a question for the board, or at least for Peter and Jim. Did you guys have a finance committee to cover the issues you just surfaced?
Yes.
Yes.
Where was that announced? I wasn't available. I mean, I wasn't aware of it.
No, we did not have a finance committee meeting about.
We had, Jim and I had a discussion on the phone.
Okay. My question for the auditor is maybe a very basic one. At the end of the letter, there's a paragraph called "Other significant matters, findings, or issues," and I don't understand the wording of the sentence at the end of the first paragraph, which reads, "None of the matters discussed resulted in a condition to our retention as the district's auditors." Is there some kind of typo, or can you explain what that means?
This is,
None of,
go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Did you intend to?
That's the question, if you could explain it.
Yeah, so it's just these are required communications are something that the AICPA, which is the standard setting body that gives us the audit standards, it effectively enforces our independence. Oftentimes we get questions about accounting matters as to how certain things should be reported on the financial statements. And again, we are still the independent auditors of the district, and that's why you see that sentence in there. Any communication between us and management did not impair our independence.
Okay. Let me see. Seeing no more questions. Peter Medina.
Yeah, just to step in real quickly, Peter Decker, thank you for pointing that out. In terms of the MD&A, that's my responsibility. I missed that. Yeah, it's $1 million error. I apologize. Unfortunate. But regarding your other point, though, either in the January meeting or the February meeting, we will have a fiscal year-end budget to actual where we do compare our adopted budget for fiscal year ended 6/30/2020 with the adopted budget, and we will show where those variances are, and we will show it as you know for the detailed budget as well as in our various revenue and expense categories. So we will go through that process. It may be a good idea to go through it and present it to the finance committee first, and then present it to the board. We've done that in the past as well. So that'll be at the discretion of Clemens, and we can decide what direction we want to go. But yes, we will compare with the budget, and then with that meeting discuss revenue and how it relates in terms of the property tax and other forms as we receive it for the full fiscal year. And yeah, property tax is tough because we do receive the two larger payments at two specific times throughout the year and some trailing amounts. But I understand your point as far as reviewing it with the budget to actual statements on a monthly basis. Yeah, we show, major net losses until that money does come in. So we really do rely on our budgeting and our cash reserves during that time period until we do get that first large assessment. Water revenue does help though on a monthly basis. So you said it's a balancing act as always, but a big part of it is involved with the budgeting process that we do.
Thank you. I don't see, let me see, we need to have we need to accept the receipt of the financial statement. I don't see any more questions. Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion to confirm receipt of the statement of the audit.
Thank you.
I'll second the
Second.
motion.
Unless
Um,
Jim wants it, I'll give it to Jim. I'm a nice guy.
Give it to the finance committee. So
Yeah,
Jim and Peter, thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Okay. Director Boyd,
Aye.
Director Decker,
Aye.
Director Harvey,
Aye.
Director Loman,
yes.
Director Slater Carter.
Aye. Good, moving right along then to, whoops. We have report. Sewer Authority Mid-Coast Side meetings. We have not had any since our last meeting, since the last MWSD meeting. I will say that Keishan and Peter have worked out a budget to actual report for Sam. And it might be interesting for the finance committee and Clemens to take a look at that and see if it would meet their needs. Midcoast Community Council meeting. I haven't been attending the meetings. Greg, would you like to speak on that?
There's nothing to report. The new officers will be sworn in on December 9th. There will be a retreat scheduled among the council members to talk about planning agendas and major topics going forward. And I want to commend MWSD, which handled an issue that at least two members of the council, how can I put this, seemed to think they'd done all they could. And obviously they had not. So congratulations to this community and Clemens and Scott and citizens Sean and Mark. You know, I'm a little embarrassed on behalf of the MCC that this didn't get handled there when they had a chance to comment a while back. But thanks.
Greg,
Rick?
Greg, before you leave, I'd like to talk to you this week before the meeting about another issue. I want to attend the meeting next Wednesday, whenever it is, about the big traffic signs in Moss Beach and Montara. I think the Midcoast Council voted, oh, we don't care as long as it's just used for emergencies. I would like a reconsider. I don't know how we get an agenda item on the Midcoast Council, or if you as a prospective member can ask for one to reconsider that.
Yeah, I can ask for one. And I would say the position that I heard was much more nuanced. A couple of the Midcoast Community Council members met with Caltrans and they got some agreement to work together. I don't believe there's a firm commitment in writing as to the outcomes, except that the size and lighting of the signs is open for discussion and some compromise. And you're right, they did get this statement that it would only display emergency messages. But anyway, I'd be glad to talk to you.
Let's chat.
And let's review what the MCC put in its letter and what you're worried about.
Sure. Caltrans and the county have pushed massive amounts of signalization into that small area of the community. And the community, like it has in the past, rose up against, I think it was 75 signs, signals, lights, crossings, everything for that one little strip. And finally, the community said, no, thank you, folks, just go away. So I'd like to ensure that, let's chat offline.
Yeah, and I'd like to join that conversation. I have some fairly strong opinions as well. Rick and I were some of the troublemakers on the council, so.
Well,
Before
tell
it
me
gets
if this
kicked
sounds
out.
familiar. Tell me if this sounds familiar, but Caltrans got a grant and they needed to do a
Yep.
project to get the money, so they decided to spend the money. Does that sound familiar? Does
Yep,
anybody
gotta
else have
spend the
that?
money.
Yeah, yeah, and the whole model for this sign thing is based on Tahoe, you know, where you have I-80 and I-50. It's all about traffic and weather and getting people to move around.
Yep.
As a CERT trainer, hooking it up with the emergency services is the biggest mistake we could make, because we're never going to make sure that we have, first of all, people will not be attenuated to the signs because they're just going to be blacked out until you have an emergency. And then how do you know that OES, the county, is actually going to give the right message to Caltrans to put on those signs? I mean, good luck with that. So
I suggest that some of us have our own private Zoom message.
I love you.
And Mark and Sean, if you want, and Carlisle,
I'll
and
weigh in.
Fran, and anybody else who wants to join in, we can just set it up, because I think it's a bigger point of discussion. And it certainly is not MWSD business, but certainly we can all have our opinions and actions. Rick?
Yeah, I just want to say the Mid-Coast Council's got a really tough job. This community is very active once it's irritated, but there is so much going on that the Mid-Coast Council has always had trouble getting tons of public input when it needs it. And that's always going to be a problem. So a lot of these issues come up, and then people find out about that it's going to happen, and everybody gets excited, like bulldozing Montara Mountain. So they're doing a great job, and it's a hard job. I know they do it for the great pay and the power. So it's, we're not attacking the Mid-Coast Council or anything. I just like to chat with Greg and everybody afterwards to reconsider that a little bit, because we have a lot more. We always get more information after something starts. So I think we can maybe just reevaluate that decision a little bit. Thanks.
Right. Thank you. CSDA report.
Nothing until January. We're going to elect a new chapter president. Unfortunately, Josh has done 3 years, and as a past president also, it's a lot of work. He's done a great job. He's also been chair of LAFCO for the last year, so he just needs a breakaway. So we'll be electing a new chapter president in January.
Good. LAFCO?
No meetings coming up.
Okay. Attorney's report.
I have no report.
Thank you. Director's reports.
I've said enough already.
Okay, thank you. General manager's report.
You're muted.
It is attached.
It told me even that it muted. Okay, well, just a brief addition to the written report. It's now December. We have a little bit over an inch of rain by now. The weather forecast long-term essentially states that we're in La Nina year. What that really means is unclear. The experts' opinions are varying quite a bit. We could see, so there is some folks are suggesting that it's time to panic, and essentially think along the lines of another drought year. California is in a long-term drought, of course, as we know. But others are pointing out that the northern sections of California are expecting higher than usual rainfalls. If that all comes down to our region, I guess we will find out. But it's definitely something that's on our radar and that we're going to look at very closely from here on out. We can't hope always for the April or May rain that bails us out as it did sometimes. We like to get a good start in the rainy season, and that's not happening right now. Thanks.
Good. Thank you. future agendas, if folks want us to put something on the agenda, get a hold of board member or Clemens, and we will, as you can see, always discuss it. Thank you, everybody. We're going to convene in closed session, so we'll take a quick break and then come back. But please join us for all of our meetings. It's always more fun with more people. And thank you very much.
Should have something
I have my
during
hand up.
agenda items. I think we have a significant deficiency of live.